A very good afternoon, everyone. शुरुआत एक ही बात से करना चाहूंगा। सबसे पहले एक बात कहते हैं लोग, बहुत सुना भी है और मुझे लगता है वर्धा पे पूरा सूट भी करता है। मुश्किलें आती हैं सबकी राहों में, ये कौन नहीं जानता। वो मंजिल पा ही लेता है जो हार नहीं मानता। And I really feel I'm feeling extremely humbled and honored to have Wardah Khan with us, who has secured All India Rank 18 in Civil Services Examination 2023 this year. And with this rank, she is going to get her desired choice of service, which is Indian Foreign Service, which is quite contrary to the prevailing trends. Usually people opt for, and there's something that we'll be talking about in a short while. Usually people talk about, and they often get carried away also. And they think of choosing IAS or IPS. People usually don't talk about IFS. When we usually talk about IFS, we end up talking about forest service. Very rarely do we speak about foreign service. So, इस occasion पे, other than Wardah speaking about her strategy, I would also like to share very important and very interesting story with all of you, which is like a serendipity, a happy accident. Wardah's mother and my mother both have served as teachers in Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. They have given sweat and blood to the KVS as a Sangathan, as an organization, and they have served decades of their life there. And it was a by chance or a serendipity accident that both of them happened to retire on the same day. And that is why I thought that to grace this occasion of felicitating Wardah, there could be no other person better than Wardah's mother, Afsar ma'am, and my mother, Manjeet ma'am, to felicitate Wardah. So, without wasting any further time, I would like to call upon my mother to felicitate Afsar ma'am and Wardah. And I would also like my mother to speak a little bit about Wardah's achievement. I know she has not prepared anything, but this is why I really want to speak her out on this, because I don't want anyone to prepare anything for this.
Good afternoon to everyone. Dear students, dear Wardah, her mother, Afsar ma'am, Nishat Sir, and others present on this special occasion of Wardah's felicitation. It's really a proud moment for everyone, for all of you, really motivational, you can say, place. You are lucky to be addressed by her also. Even I am excited to be just what she says about you. We are worried about you also, not worried, excited about your future also. So you may be benefited by her presence, by her mother's presence and our presence. So that moment is also lucky. Like have another proud moment over here.
Now I would like to call upon stage Wardah to discuss about her strategy, her struggle, and how did she manage to get this rank, what all she followed, because that's very important for many of the students who look up to her. She is going to be role model, not just to people who are preparing for civil services, but to all other students, even from Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, which is very biggest organization, one of the biggest organization in India, to look up to her and be inspired to take this decision to go ahead with civil services and not be afraid. And if she can do it, they can also do it. It took her second attempt to get this rank. In the first attempt, she could not clear prelims. But in the second attempt, she aced it, and she aced it with flying colors. So Wardah, please come on stage.
Very good afternoon to all of you. It is indeed a memorable day for me to have been invited by someone who mentored me in this process for a subject that was alien to me when I entered the cycle. So, coming from a commerce background, I had close to negligible knowledge about sociology as a discipline. But now, when I look back, having traversed this journey of 3 years with 2 attempts, I can comfortably say that I've enjoyed every moment of learning this discipline. And a huge thanks for this goes to Nishat Sir and for providing me this opportunity to share my experiences. So, this journey started way back in 2021 while I was in my job. And so I'd been associated with the Model United Nations. I'm not sure how many of you must be aware of it. So it's a simulation of the UN conferences that takes place in schools and colleges. And I was actively participating in it during my college days. And that was a starting point of my interest in diplomacy. I used to think that if, coming to consensus on conflicting issues, putting across the stance of your countries is so exciting, and all the negotiations, the backroom discussions that go on, if it is so interesting in a simulated environment, I can't even imagine how it would be in the actual setting. Furthermore, although when I started this journey after quitting my job and when I enrolled into the coaching and started preparing, there was no particular service in my mind at that point of time. I didn't make up my decision to join the IFS. It could vary for a lot of people. Some of us are very sure about the idea that we are entering bureaucracy for being an administration, being an IS. Some go on to give IPS as the first preference, quite interestingly, because they want to be the caretaker of the law and order system of the country. But at that point of time, I wanted a field that provided me an opportunity to transform the lives of people and to give me a sense of purpose in life. And also, I was quite interestingly looking for an avenue which would allow me to have a multidisciplinary learning. Because had there been any other field, let us say CAT or something, it would have been more data or oriented or quant oriented. But this is a platform where you can learn about everything and a lot of things. So it really transforms you as an individual, the journey of preparing for this exam. So yeah, I back in 2021, I started with full vigor, like all of us when we start this journey. And I also had this obsession that, I want to get through this in the first attempt. We are young blood and a little less mature at that time. But for the good or for the worse, I don't know, it's up to you to decide. The commission really humbles us down. Although I prepared for 1 full year before giving my first attempt, but I had neglected the CSAT preparation, and it naturally costed me my first attempt. Although I couldn't clear both the papers, honest but embarrassing. So I missed the GS cutoff by 1.33 marks, and I failed GSAT with a very poor score. So that was a rude shock, but it was also a God-sent opportunity, I would say. Had I been able to get through prelims, my mains preparation and especially my optional note making and answer writing wasn't up to the mark. So had I gotten through prelims, I would have definitely failed the mains. So it was another opportunity, God-sent opportunity to have a wholehearted preparation. And without further ado, I started preparing my notes. And for the second attempt, I'm lucky to have found LevelUp IAS in this journey for my second attempt of sociology. And I prepared my notes. I had done with the entire reading of my optional syllabus by December. So from this, a key takeaway for all of us who are aspiring is that before your cycle begins for the year, like the entire process from prelims, before it starts, You should be done with the note making process. You should have your notes prepared on all the syllabus heads, your GS and optional. You should have read your optional at least once. Most of the times, what we do is that we prepare notes and we think कि हमें optional आ गया है, we have mastered the art. And especially for someone who didn't have a prior experience in this new optional, it was important for me to get acquainted with it, let alone master the art of it. So I gave one thorough reading. I gave 2 readings to my paper 1 and just a single reading to paper 2. This was prior to prelims. But from December onwards, because I had faced that prelims failure, my preparation was entirely prelims oriented from December onwards. So I would suggest for those who haven't been able to, get through the first stage, without prelims, there is no mains, as you know. Start from December or at most from January onwards, because prelims usually happens in May or June. And what I used to do is, of course, when it comes to the prelim strategy, all of us are aware of the basic books and NCERTs. I would just touch briefly upon all of these. So we have the 6 main subjects for polity. And for all of them, I had done the NCERTs in my first attempt itself. So my NCERTs were done. So I naturally shifted to standard books. For polity, I did Lakshmikant, and there is no limit to the number of times you revise that book. The very sight of that thick book is scary. So it becomes humongous if you've not revised it so many times. Then for ancient and medieval, my class notes and the NCERT, and for modern spectrum, of course, that was natural choice. And science and tech, I largely followed the news. I used to follow the Hindu. So, and that was supplemented with coaching compilations of current affairs on SNT. So that was that about the GS part. For those of us who do not have a maths background or are not very comfortable with CSAT, I would say that dedicate 2 hours to your CSAT preparation right from December. Chalk out the areas you are weak in and the areas which are your strong points. And always practice CSAT in the afternoon slot. Because we have the exam, the actual exam from I think 2:30 to 4:30. And so you have to sync your mind according to that. So I used to practice during those 2 hours. So that was that about prelims. As regards the mains, I think we all know the basic sources for all the GS papers. It's just that you have to have some sort of value addition and fodder points for all the GS 1, 2, 3 at least. So for that, you have your regular reading of newspaper comes to help, because you cherry pick your unique judgments, committee recommendations from your editorials, and also data as well. Data, you can refer any monthly compilation of any institute for that. So these are your value additions to your GS papers. Now coming to the main part, which is the game changer, the optional. So I had done a very half-hearted preparation of optional in my first attempt. So in my second attempt, I prepared my own digital notes. Now all of this had been done by December. Okay, so like 2022 ka December, all of this thing had been done with the note making and stuff. I prepared my own digital notes. So paper 1 was a combination of Essential Sociology book, Sangwan, and Haralambos, the blue book, the thick one. So you don't have to do it end to end, because only a few, you can map from the syllabus, the topics that are relevant. And Ritzer for thinkers. So my paper 1 notes were a combination of these. For paper 2, I relied on the LevelUp material. And in both the papers, I supplemented that with another rank holders notes for unique points and examples and unique thinkers. Neha Bhosle ma'am, I think she was at 13 if I'm not wrong in 2018. So her notes were freely available, I think on her Telegram channel, or you can Google search it, you will easily find her notes. So I did value addition from that. Thereafter, I did my test series. So first of all, I think It's very important, like I said, to have a good reading of your optional once before the cycle commences. And in that 3-month time period between your prelims and mains, your first focus should be on PYQs. So fortunately, the LevelUp test series that I opted for, it had already had PYQs integrated in it. So I only had to prepare answers for a few questions of PYQs. Much of them were covered in the test series. And the model answers that you get. So because if you see this year's paper, especially paper 1, there were a lot of dynamic questions. Like when it like NEP question or the feminist methodology. That was the first question this year in compulsory section. So these questions are something that you cannot prepare from the books as such, the basic books. So in model answers, I still remember in my LevelUp test, I had scored the highest in that answer in NEP question, 12 out of 20. And I replicated the exact same answer in my paper because I knew how to answer that question. So that is where test series come in handy. You don't just have to give test continuously without analyzing it. And PYQs, of course. So it will be a combination of new and dynamic questions and the PYQs, along with the analysis of your own answers and comparing it with the model answers. So that would be my overall strategy for sociology. So for interview, for each of these 3 stages, I think the approach and mindset differs a lot. Because when we're studying for prelims, we are more detail-oriented, fact-focused, that we have to read between the lines. We don't miss out on stuff. So, that is more memorization is involved there. Whereas with respect to mains, I think for mains, first thing you have to do is memorize your syllabus. Your UPSC syllabus, you should be thorough with it. So that when you're reading the newspaper or anything, you can directly map ki if a particular topic, kisi pe editorial aaya hai, so you are able to map it to ki this is related to GS2. Or GS2 ke social justice mein I can use this example of newspaper. So so mains is all about understanding the demand of the question and preparing the syllabus heads. Mains is very broad. There you use your facts and figures, your prelims knowledge to substantiate your answers. For example, you must have learned about a particular report, let us say multidimensional poverty report, that who produces it. Now that forms a part of your prelims, but you know which institution brings out, and you also know the parameters and the indices of the report. Now you can quote it, the figures of this report in your GS3 answer, in your economy. So that is how preparation is integrated, but approach is different with respect to different stages. In interview, I feel very in-depth analysis is needed, because what happens in how I differentiate between mains and interview preparation is that in mains, let us say you have a 10-marker question and you have to write 8 points. Now you can afford to have 5, maybe 4 to 5 unique points, but the rest will be too generic. And that is same across all the rank holders. Everybody will write 2 to 3 generic points. You run out of unique things when you have to write under pressure. So there you can afford to go generic. But in interview, you have to be very specific. You have to come across as an informed person and someone who is not easily pliable also, and neither staunch, but knows both sides of an issue. So you are able to strike a balance between both. So what I did during my interview prep was, of course, there are 2 kinds of preparation, and I accordingly prepared my interview notes. I remember like we were a group of friends who appeared for interview, and they used to make fun that you are the only person who has made notes for interview. Who makes notes for interview? But I'm someone who is very methodical in the sense that I make notes of everything. So I prepared my interview notes in a manner that one were DAF oriented, my profile oriented, and another set of notes were current affairs oriented. So what happens in interview is that your entire year current affairs are not that relevant, because of course panelists also, they will not be keeping a tab. You are an aspirant, you will be keeping a tab on year-long current affairs, but the panelist will remember at most something that happened in past 2 months or 2 to 6 months at max. So that way I focused on the past 2 months current affairs. I prepared my notes of interview, that how I would give an opinion on this. And for to have an informed and a wider opinion, you have to refer to sources, also more sources. So for interview, I referred to 2 newspapers and one online. Like for economy, I referred to Mint, and for the other things, Indian Express and The Hindu, I started reading both of them for my interview. And in your DAF oriented preparation, you have to be thorough with every word that appears in your DAF, right from your name. In my case, my name was unique also, and there's a place related to my name in Maharashtra, and it's related to life of Mahatma Gandhi also, Wardah Ashram. So naturally, I had to prepare. But everything, right from your name, your birth date, the significance of your birth date, of your birth year, which events happened during that year. So your notes should be so detailed for your interview. Besides that, I think mock interview give you that sense of confidence. You overcome the initial hesitancy. So I wouldn't suggest people to directly go for the main interview or just give online interviews. You should give physical interviews to overcome that fright of speaking in front of a more number of people, because we've been isolated in this journey since long. We have clamped down on our social contacts, so it becomes difficult to open up all of a sudden. So that hesitancy will be removed by mock interviews. I think that is that about interview.
So, first of all, thank you, Wardah, for sharing your detailed strategy with us. Now, I'm going to open up the platform to question. In case any one of you wants to ask any specific kind of question, you may ask Wardah freely. जो भी आपका डाउट है, चाहे आपको जैसा भी लगे, weird लगे, जो भी लगे, but doubt is always a doubt. Doubt का कुछ hierarchy नहीं होता doubt में, I guess. Doubt is always a doubt. So इसलिए you can ask your question freely, okay? Whether it is related to prelims stage, mains, or personality test. But before that, I would like to ask one question, specifically from the stage of personality test. Whether prima facie, what was your experience? Do you think they were testing your knowledge, or do you think they were testing presence of mind?
Yeah, so I think the knowledge base is largely tested in the first 2 stages. There, they want to see how quickly you are able to form a balanced and a well informed opinion on the spot. So, largely your spontaneity, your presence of mind, and the calmness with which you are able to handle. Because if you're not able to handle the composure in that room, how will you handle a district? How can they entrust the entire country to you? So they largely test your personality traits other than the knowledge, which has been sufficiently tested before.
Okay. So if you have any doubt, you may ask, and we'll pass on the mic to the concerned student. Go there.
Hello. That was great to listen to you.
Thank you.
And I have a simple question that in the exam answer, the answer has to have good points, the quality as well, and in the given time frame you have to complete. So how did you geared up for that? How did you prepare for that? Because no one has such practice that you can write so many words in given time. But in the exam you have to do. So how did you?
So I think it's a very long drawn process where you refine your answer writing skills. First of all, when you start out, you don't have to worry about the amount of time you're taking. Okay, don't time yourself. You first have to improve the quality of your content and see whether it is hitting the demand of the question or not. Once you're good to go with this, then you can time yourself and then you can develop your speed of answer writing. So how to go about it? That you will have prepared your notes of GS and optional. You pick up PYQs. PYQ is just like Constitution is the soul of democracy. PYQ is the soul of this exam. So once you pick up the PYQ, you would have read your notes, of course. You try answering those questions. Don't time yourself initially. Just try answering those questions. Most of the questions could be answered from your notes. And if at all you come across any question that cannot be addressed from your notes, prepare a 2 to 3 page note on that. That is it, with which you can answer a 10 or a 15 marker. So I still remember an example I gave elsewhere also, that I had my notes prepared on cooperatives, but I did not have my notes prepared on cooperative banking specifically. And I came across one such question. So I prepared a 3 page note on that. So in this way, once you will have covered your PYQs, so PYQ, they prepare you how will you replicate your retention and your knowledge of your notes in paper. Test series prepare you for unpredictability. Okay. PYQs have set the ground. They have set the limits कि इससे बाहर तो नहीं आएगा, और अगर आएगा वो टैकल करना टेस्ट सीरीज आपको सिखा देगी. So first, prepare answers for PYQs for all the GS and the optional. Then go on to the attempt your test series and develop your speed through test series. What else I used to do is that I was associated with another initiative where we used to do flash writing sessions. So in flash writing sessions, you can do it in a peer group also, that you start the timer on. But that is something that forms a part of the second, that forms second part of the strategy when you're developing your speed. So in your flash sessions, you start a timer. All of you write down an answer to the same question and time out your question, like for 7 minutes for a 10 marker and 11 for a 15 marker. So in flash writing sessions, initially you will write bad answers, but then so if you've not written an answer that is up to the mark, revise your notes again. The basic aim is how much you're able to reproduce from your notes in that time frame. So yeah, first is reading the notes, writing quality answers, and then developing speed.
Thank you. One more thing I have to ask, that in the exam answers, we have to do two things mainly. I think that first, the demand is met, and second thing, that you have something special that can give you 1 or 2 marks extra so that you have good rank. So how do you get that special things in your answers?
So I think even the special thing which we say, it's a common understanding, but not every one of us does it. We all know that we have to give court judgments in GS2. We have to give data in GS3, or we have to give committee recommendations in polity and governance. We have to give examples in ethics, especially of public servants, or we have to back our ethics answers with with any philosopher's thought, like maybe Socrates' thought, John Rawls' thought. We have to justify our answer using their philosophical ideas. Everyone knows that they have to do this, but not everyone does the same. Okay. So try to bring this thing in practice while you're doing your PYQs and test series. When you are answering a question, first is, of course, as you said, meeting the demand. Okay. See if you've given good 5 to 6 arguments in, let's say, a 10 marker, and then see if you've been able to substantiate your arguments with data, facts, examples. So that is where the unique or the special part you said, that is where it comes into picture. Not everyone is able to do both the things simultaneously in exam hall. So try to balance that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I laid out some questions which we have received from online students. And to add on to that, I would also say, जैसे वर्दा कह रही हैं, PYQ is actually very important. And I honestly believe जो PYQ कर लेता है उसका PQY भी हो जाता है. PQY का मतलब ये है कि I believe that जिसने प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन कर लिया ही इज प्रिपेयर्ड एंड क्वालिफाइड फॉर दैट ईयर, यानी PQY. तो मेरा मानना है अगर आप PYQ से पैटर्न, भैया अभी बनाया मैंने, दिमाग में चल रहा था तो मेरे को लगा अच्छा बन रहा है, तो दिमाग में एक पैटर्न जिसका बन जाता है PYQs पढ़ने के बाद, उसको पता होता है कि मुझे ना ज्यादा अननेसेसरी चीजों को पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि देयर इज नो डर्थ ऑफ मटेरियल आउट देयर. These things will keep getting added and updated as more and more coaching institutions, as more and more authors come out. तो इसलिए हमको, जैसे वर्धा ने कल भी मिरांडा कॉलेज हम गए थे तो वहां पे एक टर्म यूज किया था वर्धा ने, इन्फोडेमिक. तो देयर इज नो डर्थ ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन. वी आर लिविंग इन द एज ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन ओवरलोड. बट द इशू इज नॉट what we say is availability of issue. The issue is lack of meaning to that what we call as extra sources or surplus of information that we have available. So now I'll be asking Vardha some questions on behalf of some students. So Vardha, एक question है, and I'll try to ask you those questions which are not addressed before. What is the ideal timeline to prepare for 2025? This is a question by Sahil. 2025 के लिए ideal time prepare करने का.
I think it also depends on the stage of life where you are at. A lot of people will be in the final year of their college. Some must be working and then aiming for 2025. Or some must be doing full-time preparation that they will give 2 years and then go for the exam. So I don't know if I'm qualified enough to say that because, yeah, my preparation was just 22 first attempt. I had planned for it. 21, I started preparation, couldn't clear. That's why 23 was natural choice. But yeah, ideal is this only. First, develop a habit of newspaper reading to get a tab on current affairs. Do the NCERTs first, basic NCERTs, not for all subjects. You have to do it for geography, polity, and history, ancient and medieval specifically. Do the NCERTs, do the standard books, and when you're closer to the prelims, start, and yes, of course, the note making part, get done away with it, both GS, and if not GS, then at least your optional notes should be prepared. At least one reading to optional papers, and from the year where you have to give attempt, the December of the year prior to it, like December, if someone has to give in 25, from December or January, you can start with the giving mocks and prelims oriented revision.
So next question is, I guess it is by Manisha. Being from a commerce background, how did you think of taking sociology as optional? And also, I would like to add one more question here, that since your role model is Vikram Grewal sir, who is an IFS officer, and you also share interest in geopolitics. So not only you had commerce background, but you had interest in geopolitics, which means that you could have taken PSIR also, political science. Despite having these two choices, why did you opt for sociology?
Okay. When I started, I want to be clear because I was venturing into an entirely new field. Someone from commerce may not necessarily have decided earlier to go for civil services, because people who are decided early on, they take such disciplines like maybe history or pol science honors and stuff like that. But because I had not decided, so naturally I wanted to learn something new. That's why I didn't go for commerce and accountancy. So I wanted to start afresh. I parsed through the syllabus of different optionals. And not only did I find the sociology optional syllabus interesting, there are a lot of convergences also, especially with GS1, the society part. And sociology is something you will find in handy when it comes to giving arguments and examples in your essay paper also. It greatly helps you with that. So yeah, that was one of the reasons. And not taking PSIR, I would say, I did consider, like I had enlisted these two only initially. But PSIR, because IR, despite being interested in it, forms a small part of the syllabus. The majority is your political science theories. And also, it might seem far-fetched, but there is some intersectionality between the career of an IFS and sociology as a discipline, because it sort of acquaints you with the society that is all encompassing across the world. And especially when we have Western thinkers, we know the kind of economy, the polity, the different kind of ideologies that are prevailing across the world. So that knowledge also helps you in adapting to a new culture when you're posted as a diplomat. So yeah, it was a very natural choice for me.
Okay, so next question was, how can I do mains preparation along with full-time job? I don't think Wardah can justify.
Yeah, I'm not qualified to answer on this.
Because although Wardah also was working before she prepared for this exam, but she left her job.
Yeah.
Then she prepared. So I don't think Wardah will be able to answer this question. Let me ask you some other question. How to study long hours? एक Wardah ये भी थोड़ा बताओ यार, ये होता है ये long hours का मतलब क्या होता है और आपने कितने घंटे अब पढ़ा? और कैसे करते हैं अगर किया आपने?
I think there's also this obsession with the number of hours we are spending. And I don't really think it's a very, I might have posed a similar question when I would have been in your place. But now when I look at it, I find there's no one size fits all approach. So similarly, there is no one standard answer to this. It all depends on your background, your UG background, whether the subjects you're studying are new to you or you've been acquainted with the concepts, your pace of learning and retaining things and revising things. So, but I would say that at least what I've practiced, at least you can devote 8 to 9 hours on an everyday basis. But this stretches during the time frame between prelims and mains, like right before your mains, those I wouldn't say for the entirety of 3 months, but at least 1.5 to 2 months, it does stretch to 12 hours because then you are doing answer writing also. You're writing 3 hour long test. You're analyzing the test. You also have to revise your GS. So GS and optional, you're managing simultaneously at that time. So yes, you need to increase your efficiency of at least 2 months prior to mains.
So one more question I'll take, and then I'll ask the offline students to ask their question. How many thinkers should we quote per question? Again,
Yeah, there's obsession with this also among the sociology students. And see, it's practically infeasible for us to have this in mind. Ki this question, I will quote 3 thinkers or 4 thinkers. It all depends on how much you're able to get at that point. But one thing I would for sure like to say, and something that has costed people also who given mains, and they thought that they quoted enough thinkers yet couldn't clear mains. That first of all, in sociology, your thinker's perspective cannot and should not foreshadow your perspective. Okay. How you are understanding a topic. You have to give your argument first and then you substantiate with it with thinker. So, for example, if there's a question on, let us say, religion, you started by introducing religion by giving Durkheim's definition, and you may be asked about the functionalist perspective of religion. You give your perspectives first, or you give your arguments. Why do you think it's functional for the society? So you're given one point, and then you quote a thinker that Murdoch said, ki, this is the reason why it is functional. So your argument should be substantiated by thinkers. And there is no hard and fast rule about the number of thinkers you quote. And especially in paper 2, people face this difficulty that we don't have a lot of thinkers in Indian sociology. So what do we do? So then also I would say that again, your argument and content is the king. The thinkers are also important, but they come after that. So despite having a dearth of thinkers in paper 2, I've seen people clearing it with the good marks. First, you have to understand the topic and then take the support of thinkers. And there is no limit as much as you can remember, because when you're writing the answer, it becomes difficult. So you cannot just sit back and think कि इसमें तो सोचा था 3 quote करूंगी या करूंगा और अब याद ही नहीं आ रहा है, 2 से ज़्यादा thinker याद नहीं आ रहा है. So you cannot sit back and waste your time, right? You can quote maybe 4 to 5 thinkers in the next question. So don't be hard pressed on this, I'd say.
Congratulations, ma'am. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations both the ma'am. मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे आपने कहा कि आपका पहला प्री नहीं हुआ, वो ब्लेसिंग इन डिस्गाइज था कि आपने फिर प्रिपेयर कर लिया उस टाइम. लेकिन अगर किसी का हो जाता, फॉर एग्जांपल इस बार के लेते हैं, 16 जून को हमारा प्री है, उसके बाद टाइम शायद 90 डेज है. अगर किसी का प्री क्लियर हो जाता है तो वो 90 डेज कैसे डिवोट करने चाहिए, और टेकिंग इनटू कंसिडरेशन कि उसका एथिक्स और ऐसे थोड़ा वीक पोर्शन है, तो इस 90 डेज को कैसे डिवोट करे कि हो जाए.
Again, it would be difficult for me because I had done it before. But like you mentioned, both are very important topics, your essay and ethics. For essay, I can confidently say because I hadn't written a single essay before that. So I started my essay preparation then only. Again, start writing essays on PYQ topics. Because when you do that, you will understand how to interpret the topics given by UPSC and then move on to the test series topics. So I can tell my essay strategy with respect to this, that if you are short on time, and because I had done the same in that 3-month time frame, for essays, you will not have a problem in quoting examples because your GS knowledge will come to your help in that. You will have a problem in structuring your essays, right? So try to have a certain anecdotes, okay? An anecdote could be any event. Once you will get in the main cycle, no, you will get, you will read a lot of topocopies and you will come across some anecdotes that are very commonly used. Be it Siddhartha's departure to become Buddha, or Chanakya's story, how his machinations led to installing of Chandragupta Maurya. Then you have Rosa Parks' story for racial profiling. So these are some of the famous anecdotes. You will come across them in different materials. Prepare a list of these anecdotes that can be used across the topics, and certain quotes. So I prepared 2-page notes of the anecdotes I will be using as introductions, and the quotes that I will be using in between. And more every year, almost, the philosophical essays, they come on virtues only. Be it honesty, rational thinking, perseverance. Matlab, if you take out the crux of the topic, no, that is that only. Um, so yeah, so when you prepare your anecdotes and quotes that are based on virtues like these, they are usable across different kinds of topics. As regards your ethics, again, I don't know how to address this because I had consolidated my notes. So try to in the first month, like that in that 3-month time frame, right after prelims, try to first, amongst all the GS, focus on ethics first. Ethics can be a game changer in this exam, and prepare your notes well, and use examples of public servants. So I picked examples from Shruti Sharma ma'am's notes, Air 1, and 2022 batch, All India rank 26, Gunjita Agarwal ma'am. So I picked examples and inserted in my notes. And yeah, so, and PYQs, of course, try to answer PYQs and case studies also. Try to develop an approach around case studies.
Ma'am, how much test series you have given after pre?
Yeah, so test series, like I said, once you're done with all your PYQs, it all depends on how much you want to practice. So there is no number for this also. But one thing I would like to caution you all about is that don't give test series like consecutively. If you have decided that you will be giving 2 test series, just space them out, because you've given a test, you need to analyze it also, and you need enough time for that analysis. Once you've analyzed, you will have to revise the things that you forgot, right? Or where you couldn't recall the points. So give a test, analyze your test, revise your notes again where you couldn't perform, and then give a few days time, give yourself a breather, and then attempt another test. So I'm talking about between test series, not consecutive test within a series. So don't give them in a hurry without analyzing your performance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, we all know that revision is one of the important part that plays a crucial role, and we also know that it is the hardest, also difficult to do. So, what was your revision strategy or plan you have made for the revision of optional as well as for GS?
So I think, yeah, for prelims, because it is more fact oriented. So there is no such strategy. For example, if you've done Lakshmikant 4 to 5 times, now you are well equipped to complete that book in 10 days, or let us say a week. So there is no magical number ki itte baar kar liya to I am fit to sit for the exam. If you have time, do it as many times as possible for prelims. For mains, what happens is, because a single paper has a lot of subjects, you need to have your notes and all in one place. We don't essentially forget the concepts, we forget the value added points like data and stuff. So what I did was, for effective revision before mains, for GS2, I prepared 3-page notes which had all my Supreme Court judgments, committee recommendations, and yeah, for polity, I think these two are important. Committee recommendations, second ARC and other committees, and my Supreme Court judgments I had. For GS3, again, and this is the only thing that I revised before my mains exam of GS2. Because you must be knowing the articles and all. वो pre का knowledge आपका covered है. That part is done. Then for GS3, again a 3-pager note having all the facts and figures, the data related to economy or environmental initiatives, science and tech, any current that was in use. For example, I remember this year's mains, Chandrayaan-3 had come. So it was in news. So write down all the payloads, the mission objectives. So just prepare a 2 to 3 pager of this depending upon the topic, and you will be good to go for revision.
मैम आप मतलब आंसर राइटिंग के लिए डेली या वीकली ऐसे कैसे करते थे आंसर राइटिंग के लिए?
So, if you align your answer writing with your revision only. For example, if you are done with GS1 May, if you are done with, let us say, history, art and culture. So there are a lot of compilations that segregate the PYQs topic wise. Okay. Attempt the PYQs of that once you're done with the revision part. Again, when then you come to society in GS1, you have revised your notes, attempt the PYQs. So that is how you align your answer writing with this. You don't have to dedicate a specific time for revision, ki sab revise kar lunga GS 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll start writing answer. Align your answer writing with your revision.
Okay, so one last question, Wardah, from our side. If you were to appear this year once again, जो कि अच्छी बात है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होने वाला. But since you know that if you had appeared this time around, you would have been left with only 90 days before you appear for mains. Okay. इस बार टाइम ज्यादा नहीं, क्योंकि प्रीलिम्स का भी वो सिचुएशन ऐसी हो गई थी कि इलेक्शन की वजह से पोस्टपोन करना पड़ गया. हाउ वुड यू हैव स्ट्रेटेजाइज्ड योर whole journey if you were to write mains this year? Because 90 days is not great enough to really prepare that.
So, very interesting question, because after taking a few days break right after my interview, I used to have a study group of some 4 to 5 friends. I had already started solving the PYQ. So I was prepared in mind that maybe I will have to give the attempt again. So it's an unpredictable exam. You cannot be certain of getting a rank. I am done at this point of time and I am done with history PYQs, with polity PYQs and half of economy. I am done with it already. So I had planned ki once I'm done with the PYQ solving, and I had prepared notes of the things that I couldn't answer, I would have revised it from my static books. So this way my PYQ would have been covered. I would have revised my static books. Only area where I would have faced some problem was current affairs. But for that also, because the very haphazard manner I had done current affairs, because you do it with a different mindset for mains and then for interviews, so it gets broken in between. Your momentum gets broken. So for current affairs, I had thought, remember that your good hold over static will only get you through prelims. If you think that you can ignore the static and mastering current affairs, which is not possible, you cannot have a knowledge of everything that happened around. You will miss out on certain things. So if you think that ignoring static and mastering current affairs will help you get through prelims, then you need to come out of this delusion. So after having done your static, so what I planned that I would just revise from the monthly compilation, the PTs that come, because I had been irregular with newspaper due to mains and interview. So I had strategized it this way.
So basically, more importance to static area and PYQs. This is the basic summary of everything. So I guess we have covered sufficient amount of questions. In case you still want to ask any question, you may ask before we wrap up the session. And I would request all of you to stay here, because we'll be having a short meal type of thing before you leave. Okay. So before that, if you want to ask any question, you are free to ask. Yes.
मैम एक क्वेश्चन है मेरा कि सब लोग तो ये कहते हैं कि मतलब इंटर कब करना है एग्जाम में, 1 अटेम्प्ट दो अटेम्प्ट दो, जिसका हो गया तो मतलब सही है. और बहुत सारे ऐसे भी स्टूडेंट होते हैं जो 4 इंटरव्यू दे चुके हैं, 5 इंटरव्यू दे चुके हैं और उनका अटेम्प्ट अब खत्म हो गया है. तो मतलब कब एग्जिट करना चाहिए एग्जाम से, ये माइंड मेकिंग होना चाहिए.
I think that's a very relevant and a pertinent question. And I also believe that those people who exit out of the cycle before exhausting all their attempts are much more courageous. You know, just staying in the cycle is a lot easier than taking that decision that no, I need to step back because a lot of gap is happening in my career. So I can tell you what I had envisioned. I had planned that maximum I would be giving 3 attempts. I had also given CAT as a backup last year and had converted one decent college also. So had this thing not worked out and okay, so it's a slightly a long plan I had made कि अगर 23 में I don't get a rank, I would give 24 ka prelims, and if I don't make it, I'll do MBA. I'll just exit the cycle then, because 3 attempts was my plan. 3 attempts exhausted. I will take a step back. Of course, you have this unfulfilled desire. It pains a lot. Of course, I may not be able to relate with a lot of people, but I have seen my friends who've been through the process, that especially who've given interviews and have not been able to make the cut successively, that how difficult it is to forget your dream and get out of the cycle. But yes, it has to be your decision before entering the cycle or even during the cycle. Make up your mind that I will give these many number of attempts. And it also depends on your UG background. Consider the fact if you have a degree which is marketable or not. That in case you quit and once you go into the job market, will it be easy for you to get the job or not? So factor that in, and try to have a backup either in the form of a job after your stipulated number of attempts which you have decided for yourself, or go for another exam, probably CAT, GATE, or it could be anything. So yes, the clarity is needed. You cannot just be stuck up in the cycle and think ki is baar nahi to agli baar.
So it's time that we wrap up the session, and I thank you all once again that you came all the way from your places and graced the occasion. And I would really want all of you guys to give your best this year prelims. Of course, everybody would want to give their best only, but please remember, time जैसे जैसे पास आता है, हमारे अंदर की एंजाइटी, स्ट्रेस और एक्सपेक्टेशन दोस्तों का, पेरेंट्स का, वो भी बढ़ते जाता है, और वो एक हमें उस जोन में ले जाता है जहाँ पे वी स्टार्ट फीलिंग अंडर कॉन्फिडेंट, वी स्टार्ट अंडरमाइनिंग अवरसेल्व्स. हमें लगता है कि इस बार नहीं, अगली बार दे लेते हैं. एंड ट्रस्ट मी, यूजुअली जैसे हम सोशियोलॉजी में पढ़ते हैं, योर ट्रबल इज नॉट पर्सनल ट्रबल. ये ट्रबल एक पब्लिक इशू है. दिस हैपेंस विद एवरीवन. इट इज नॉट यू. यू आर नॉट द ओनली पर्सन हु इज गोइंग थ्रू दिस. सबके साथ यही होता है. हाँ, कोई हो सकता है बोले नहीं मेरा तो हो गया तैयार, तुम देख लो अपना, ठीक है. लेकिन ये भी एक ऐसी चीज है जो कि कंपटीशन में बहुत नॉर्मल है. कभी कभी लोग अपने कंपटीशन को कट आउट करने के लिए खुद मोटिवेटेड नहीं तो आपको डीमोटिवेट करने की जरूर कोशिश करेंगे. ओके, सो इसलिए आप लोग कभी भी अब किसी और के सोर्सेस से, किसी और की स्ट्रेटेजी से, किसी और के माइंडसेट से, किसी और के प्लानिंग से बिल्कुल मत इन्फ्लुएंस होइए. ये आपकी जर्नी है, आपका डिसीजन है, आपकी लाइफ है, एंड यू नो एग्जैक्टली व्हाट यू हैव बीन डूइंग, एंड यू नो व्हाट वर्क्स फॉर यू, व्हाट डज नॉट वर्क फॉर यू. जस्ट लाइक सब लोग अलग अलग ऑप्शन लेते हैं तो भी सिलेक्शन होता है. दैट मीन्स सबके अपनी अपनी चॉइसेस हो सकती हैं लाइफ में. उसी तरह सबके अपने अपने पढ़ाई का रूटीन, सबके अपने अपने नंबर ऑफ आवर्स भी हो सकते हैं, और तो भी सिलेक्शन हो सकता है. सो इसलिए डोंट गेट bogged down by the upcoming prelims. Just stay focused and focus a lot on static and PYQs. Okay, thank you once again. You're welcome. So, ठीक है, with this I'll conclude the session. Thank you.